Well, I think the bit that always gets the shiver going down my spine is the time travel sequence, which is where you've got to do quite a lot to enable the time travel mode. You've got to complete both the ramps, and you've got to lock all the balls for a multi-ball. So there needs to be a good payoff. So we spent a lot of time on a cool light show where all the lights radiate into the crystal, and the crystal picks up speed, and then you've got the dot matrix going as well. And it just sets it up and then leads straight into a time travel multi-ball. And that is probably out of all the games I've done, that sequence is probably the bit I'm most proud of, and then the gameplay that follows on from that.
And what's the secret to make the best-selling pinball video game?
Well, it's to lock yourself in an office for a couple of years, hardly go out at all, grow your hair this long, which used to be the case back then, not get out that much. But no, it's just, you've got to be obsessive, you just got to throw yourself into it. And we did lots of things with Timeshock that we thought people wouldn't even notice, but it's that what makes it fun, and you basically pour your whole heart into it for a while and give it everything you've got. And luckily there seemed to be enough people that appreciated the madness that we put into it. So.
Well, in the original presentation we also talked about the journey we had from creating this game, but since Aid is here, I think it's more interesting for the people to ask him questions. If you have specific questions for us, for the Timeshock, for the building of the game, you can find us at the booth. But right now, I think there may be questions from the audience today. Are there any questions? Theo, I guess.
Yes. When you design the game, did you have in mind that could be produced as a real game,
So shall I, the question is, when you designed the game, did you think of making it real one day? Yeah, that it could be made real.
Yeah, a key thing with the Pro Pinball, when we set out to do it, was to make the most realistic simulation we possibly could. And we designed it, at least in our minds, so that it could theoretically be done. I mean, it might be quite a challenge, and certainly as the series progressed it probably gets even more challenging, but it was important that from the visuals to the simulation to the rule set and everything, that it was as realistic as we could possibly make it. And I never dreamed that it could possibly become real. I mean, and it's just amazing. I saw it in the flesh for the prototype in the flesh for the first time last night, and it really is like a dream come true that this thing that was just a figment of my imagination is now something that's tangible and you can actually play. So it's an exciting time.
I read you have a Kickstarter project for your new one. Is it working? And what will be the difference with the new Timeshock coming up with the old version?
Okay, so the question was, believe that we have a Kickstarter to do a new version of the simulation, and how does that tie in with the physical one?
No, with the previous digital electronic one. With the computer one.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Between the new one and the old one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was the difference between the old and the Ultra Edition? Well, the Ultra Edition, the graphics have been completely done from scratch. We've got a whole new way of rendering and displaying it. Probably the original one was dynamic as much as we could make it. The flashes couldn't flash and you get a sort of a starburst. But with the new one, if you have a flasher going off, the entire playfield lights up and everything around it and sort of reflects what's going on. We're also completely revisiting the physics as well. As it stands, it's still got the old physics because they stand up well. So we want, so our top priority was getting it out onto new platforms. I've got the iPad version with me today, and if people want to come over to the stand, then you're welcome to see that. That's very close to being sent off to Apple, so it can be distributed out to our backers very soon. And the PC version's not too far behind. We made a few tweaks on the Ultra Edition as well. There's more detail on the time machine than there used to be, and the crystal's been reworked a bit too. And all those things have been fed back into the real one that's being worked on now.
Peter. What are your favorite pins, and which were, if any, influence on Timeshock?
Okay, thank you. Yes, one of my favourite pins and which influenced Timeshock. Well, certainly Star Trek, as I've mentioned, was a big favourite. I mentioned a few others that have inspired Pro Pinball. You might be able to work out where the bits and bobs came from, but Black Knight 2000, Rolling Games, a few to mention. Been a big Steve Ritchie fan. Flow has always been an important thing to me in a pinball table, and all the ones that I've designed have tried to keep that feeling of flow. So I've looked for inspiration in other ones, but it's picking good ideas that you think can be melded with other things and bring them together to make something new. But certainly Star Trek is probably the one that I drew most inspiration for with Timeshock.
For the new engine, did you ever consider a dynamic camera system?
Yes, sorry, the question was, for the new Ultra Edition, would we consider a dynamic camera system? We did think about that. Obviously, everyone these days have dynamic cameras, and it's all done with real-time 3D. However, when we looked at it, we just realised that if it's realism you're going for, and we are, pre-rendering it offline can yield much better results. If you've got a whole vast bank of computers pre-generating all the lights, working out where the reflections are, that's always going to be much more realistic than something that's generating that real time. I mean, the downside is, yes, the camera can't move around as you're playing, and yeah, you can get a bit animated when you're moving around, but generally speaking, when you're playing pinball, you've got a pretty much a fixed viewpoint. So we decided, after knocking it around, that fixed viewpoint would enable us to pre-render it, and pre-rendering it would just enable us to do cool lighting effects that you simply can't do in real time at the moment. If you come over to the stand, you can see what's going on. If you look on the arm of the time machine, you can see every lamp on the playfield that's actually being reflected off the arm of the time machine. And you can see the flashes casting subtle shadows where they go. You just can't do realistic shadows in real time to the degree that you can do with the pre-rendering technique. And more than that, by pre-rendering it, you don't have to have stupidly powerful devices to run it on. As long as they've got a reasonable amount of graphical capability, you can run it. So devices as low as the iPad 2 can run it. It looks fantastic. It still runs really smoothly. So we're very pleased with the results, and I hope you are all too.
What is exactly your role in the Silver Castle project, and how do you cooperate these things we don't have in the Netherlands?
So the question is, what is my role with the Silver Castle project? As I probably don't live in the Netherlands. No, I don't live in the Netherlands. I live near Oxford in the UK. I communicate mainly via Skype, giving advice wherever. I'm often sent images of the table as it's being developed, and if there are any questions about the way to go, then I'm there to answer them. Because a few things have had to be adapted. I mean, I tried to design it so it could be made as a real table, but obviously there are some considerations when you do actually make it for real that I couldn't consider, such as just how on earth do you cram everything on the underside of the playfield. That I didn't think about it. I just thought, well, yeah, if it fits on the top, then surely you can fit the corresponding stuff underneath. So, yeah, those are my dreams. But So when things need to be tweaked or adjusted, then I'm always sort of asked if I've got any thoughts on that. The Silver Castle guys are very keen to make sure that what they're doing doesn't deviate from the original concept wherever possible, and they're very keen to keep me happy, which is very kind of them. They needn't do that, but they're very conscientious, which is great.
Maybe I can add to that, we are making the physical table, but Adrian is providing the software, is helping out with the software. So to get a best experience, the original team from the game is going to write the software part for our physical game.
Yeah, despite it going back all those years, all the original coders that worked on the Prototyp games are still working with me. I'm very pleased to say. And yes, they are currently working on the software for the actual one.
Yeah. Will be the new Timeshock. Will it be possible to play it in cabinet mode?
So with the new Timeshock, will it be possible to play it in cabinet mode? Absolutely, yes. We have come up with a technique that will sort of slightly distort the renders that we've got for a flat screen to compensate. It's sort of like reverse keystone correction for anyone who knows about that. But essentially, when you've got the plasma, the screen in front of you in a cabinet, the back of it is, to your eyes, narrower than the front. So we kind of process the visuals we've got to compensate that for a bit. So when you look at it, it sort of all sort of evens out, and then you come up with a great feeling of depth and a very realistic looking 3D view. So yeah, the very initial one won't support all the cabinet features that we ultimately want to get in there, but over time we will fully support everything that cabinets have to offer. We've already got support in there for real dot matrix display as well. It was great to see the dot matrix animations that were done all those years ago actually popping up on an actual display when we tried it out last year.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Is there also an active background you can put on the same monitor if you have the camera? For real pinball, how do you say it? If you have two monitors separate, is there a separate background?
So the question was, do we support, or will it support multiple monitors? Yes, the plan is ultimately to support up to 3, so you can have one for the game itself, one for the back glass, and one for the dot matrix display. So you'll either be able to have an LCD for the dot matrix or drive an actual DMD if you've got one.
Will the real table, can real table be linked to the software versions for the future? So score-wise, so that the high scores from the real table are also shown on the simulation?
Excellent question. We don't know yet. So thanks. Thanks for the suggestion. Other questions? Okay. See no more questions? Okay. Well, thanks for being here. And this was it for us. If you have questions for us or for Aid, please come visit us at the stand. And thanks for being here.
Jij bent een van de ontwikkelaars.
Ja, ik ben een beetje de aanjager van het
Oké, gaaf.
Hi.
En hij wordt hier bij ons. Tekeningen maken elektronica, dus bijvoorbeeld de light shows en